Welcome to a 10-1, 10-1 review. My name is Nessa, and today we're talking about Fae Farm and how I felt after playing the game for 10 minutes, 1 hour, 10 hours, and 1 year in-game. As a person who does not have a lot of time to play games, I think that first impressions are super important, and the first 10 minutes, an hour of a game should give you a basic rundown of what the game has to offer. That being said, I also know that cozy games in the farming and life sim genre can have slow starts, lengthy tutorials, and they just might take some time to shine, which is why I think reviewing my experience at 10 hours and a year in-game is also important, because how I feel at the 1 hour mark might be completely different at 10 hours, and that could change dramatically again after I go through a year in-game. I won't be rating Fae Farm on a scale, but I'll definitely talk about my experience and what I liked and wished it did differently. So without further ado, let's get into the review. Fae Farm is a magical farm simulation game developed by Phoenix Labs. It is available on PC, the Nintendo Switch, PlayStation, and Xbox gaming consoles. I played the PC version of this game, so my review will be my experience with PC, so please note that some bugs I've encountered may be limited to my specific version. The standard edition of Fae Farm on PC, Xbox, and PlayStation retail for $29.99 USD. The price on the Nintendo Switch version is a little bit more expensive at $44.99 USD. In Fae Farm, you are able to farm, raise animals, fish, craft, cook, mine, forage, and brew magical potions to help you with your day-to-day tasks. This game supports 4-player cross-platform co-op, so you can play with your friends regardless of what console they're using to play the game. I did not venture into co-op during my playthrough, so my review will be strictly limited to the single-player experience. Additionally, Fae Farm has 2 DLC out right now, Coast of Croakia and Skies of Azoria. I did not play the DLC, and this review is focused only on the base edition of the game. You are a random adventurer who finds a message in a bottle inviting you to an island that needs your help. Without a second thought, you set off to find this island and promptly get shipwrecked. Luckily, you manage to make it onshore to the beautiful town of Azoria, where you are greeted by the mayor, who happens to be the same person who sent you that message in the bottle. She is more than happy to give you a farm, since you're the only one that made the trip, with all of the natural disasters that are preventing other people from coming, which include a whirlpool, a never-ending blizzard, an active volcano, and tons of wild thorns that are sprouting up everywhere. So with your new welcome package, you head up to your farm and try to figure out what's going on with the island. You'll meet the Wisp Mother on your journey to restore balance to the island, and interesting elemental sprites that help you along the way. As of this review, I have finished the main story and peace has returned to my island. I would say that it does take a full year, give or take, to complete the main story, depending on how much time you spend focused on it. In the first 10 minutes of the game, I was able to create my character and start the story. The character creation has a lot of options for selecting your skin tone, pronouns, 4 different body types, a few eyes and hair variations, facial details, and voices to choose from. The only thing I noticed was missing from the option was to choose your own name. The game ended up using my Steam name, which I assume is done for co-op purposes, but it would have been nice to choose a different name for the single-player experience. The first thing that I've noticed is that the graphics look really great. I love the cartoony style. It makes everything seem more endearing to me. The first shot of the town looked absolutely beautiful, and I particularly love how the buildings look. Right away, I was introduced to the mayor, who was extremely eager to give me a shiny new farm. This seemed like a good deal to me, so I went and found my farm. I really like the quest tracker in this game, where you can open the map and select an NPC or an area where you want to go to. A tracker will appear on screen and direct you to which direction you need to go to. You just have to follow it to get to your destination. This made finding my farm really easy. The mayor decided that she needed to give me a tutorial on how to chop down trees and collect stones and weeds, so I ran around doing that. It took me a few seconds to get used to the speed of the resource collecting, since it feels really impactful whenever you try to chop down a tree or mine a rock, but that also means that this is a little slower than other games that I've played, at least in the beginning. Already, I was super excited to continue playing the game after my first 10 minutes were up. After 10 minutes of gameplay, the tutorial was still ongoing. The mayor gave me a brief rundown on how to craft items in my house and outside of my house, use my storage shed, and plant seeds. Surprisingly, she did not teach me how to water my plants, but based on my knowledge of other farming games, I was able to figure that one out myself. Farming in Fae Farm is relatively standard, as you water crops and harvest when the crops are ready. However, it does things differently than other games in a way that the vendor does not change her supply of seeds when the seasons change. If you want seasonal crops, you'll have to use the magic crop swap fertilizer in order to change the crop to a seasonal or Fae variation. I like this change to the traditional system as it was fun to see what crops would evolve from my base ones. The base ones in this game include the turnip, cauliflower, and bean. In the hour of play, I was introduced to the fishing and bug catching mechanic. The fishing minigame involves throwing out your lure and wiggling it closer to you to attract the attention of a fish. Once the fish takes the bait, you have to play tug of war with it to reel it in. When the fish is pulling, then you don't want to pull as well or the line will snap. Instead, you have to wait until the fish is tired to reel it in. Eventually, after some back and forth, you'll end up with a fish if you're patient enough. The bug catching does not really have a minigame, but you can crouch and sneak up on bugs to catch them. I like how the game has a little silver circle around the bug whenever you are within catching range. This makes it super easy for me to know whether I'm close enough or if I need to sneak up a little bit more. While I was running around doing random things, I also started gaining level up for repetitive tasks. I love skill systems where you level if you do a lot of the same things over and over again, and this is no exception. I like that there are skill perks that are unlocked during leveling which grant you different abilities, such as having a % change of doing extra damage to a tree, or confusing a fish, or even regaining your stamina. This system in particular really motivates me to do tasks that I would otherwise not want to do because I want to level up in that area, so I was happy to see it in Fae Farm. The rest of my hour is spent introducing myself to some townsfolk. There is a romance option where you can give romanceable characters to increase their heart level. However, they have specific items that they want, so you cannot just gift them whatever you want in your inventory. For the other townsfolk that can become your friends, you simply have to chat with them to increase their heart levels, and sometimes they have friendship quests to complete for a little extra increase. The romanceable characters themselves also have romanceable quests that you can complete in order to advance their heart levels. Right after the 1 hour mark, I was able to do a lot of things back to back. This included purchasing my first coop animal, as well as my second, my third, and my fourth. In this game, the animals do not cost that much to purchase. I paid only 200 gold per chickadee and cottontail, which is super cheap in my opinion. In other games, it usually takes a bit longer to save up money for a coop and some chickens. However, you can start raising animals pretty much right away in this one. I was able to buy the animals and walk them back to my farm, where I registered them in my ledger and chose a nest for them. You have to buy the animals one by one, so I had to make 4 trips from the vendor back to my farm. Although I didn't mind it right away at the 1 hour mark, this did get a little tedious for me later on because I would have to walk animals back and forth more often than I thought I would. The animal mechanics work pretty similar to other farming games, where you can ring a bell for the animals to go outside and you can feed them in a trough inside of their home. Every morning they will leave produce such as an egg or some silk in their nest for you to gather, and you can pet and or brush them depending on what animal you brought. Later in on the game, you have the ability to breed animals to make different color ones and also animals that have better stats. I was also able to unlock the mines relatively right after the 1 hour mark. The mines work similarly to other farming sim games where you mine rocks in order to open up the next level. In the first dungeon, that takes on the form of a button that you have to press to open the door. The unique feature in Fae Farm is that you have to craft seals, which are crafted with ores and gems found on the levels that you visit in order to teleport back to that level in the future. If you do not have a craft seal, then you have to start all over or at the most recent seal that you have been able to craft. This is an interesting concept since I'm pretty used to being able to return to any level that I've already unlocked, or at least every 5 or 10 levels, or just being forced to start from the beginning each time. In other dungeons, I wasn't able to unlock in the 10 hours. The mechanics are different in how you go to the next level, so I do appreciate the variety. You do have to craft seals for every dungeon, and the later dungeons have requirements of needing specific potions crafted in order for you to be able to survive in their depths. At the 10 hour mark, I reached the 24th day of spring and had unlocked 25 levels of the first dungeon, where I met my first sprite. I completed the quest to stop the whirlpools with the sprite, which included offering a variety of items that it wanted. This brought on a variety of other characters who are visiting the town, so that was pretty cool to see. At this point, I was developing relationships with the villagers. The relationship system in this game is pretty simple. You can increase points by chatting with the villagers and giving them specific items that they request if they're romanceable. Once a romanceable character's affection level goes up, they will move on to the flirting phase and give you quests to complete which involve bringing them specific items. After that, they will ask you on a date. I was able to go on a date during this time with Argyle, who's a potter and loves frogs. The date scene was really beautiful where we both sat on the docks and he talked about frogs. I thought this was a really cute way to show showcase the dating system, and I couldn't wait to romance the other characters. Character affection in this game seems to increase fairly quickly, as I was already at flirting stage with many of the new characters who just showed up after the whirlpool was handled. But I didn't mind at all because I was looking forward to getting to know them better during the dates. After dealing with the whirlpool, I also unlocked a new spell called Vortex that allowed me to blow away those dark spots on the map so I can get around easier and use more of the land that they were covering. I unlocked the barn during this time and bought my first barn animal. The only issue is that I didn't know how to feed my animal. I didn't see any fodder seeds at the various shops, and the animal would not eat the plant fibers that the coop animal were okay with eating. I ended the 10 hours thinking that I might have to sell my barn animal back to the store since I hadn't found a way to feed it. I did later find out that I needed to craft a specific fodder field decoration for my animal and harvest that way instead of planting grass like other games. Luckily, I didn't have to sell any of my animals during this time since they were able to last until I was able to figure out what I needed to do. Overall, during the 10-hour mark, I had a lot of fun running around completing quests for the villagers, trying to go deeper into the mines, and trying to sell my wares. I really liked the gameplay loop, although I found that it was really difficult to sell items since you have to use the market stalls and there are only a specific number of slots available. I bought a produce stall which allows me to sell a bit more. However, my inventory and storage shed were getting crowded by a number of items that I couldn't sell, and I would have to make the decision on which items would net me the most amount of money. I thought that dealing with the whirlpool would free up the ability for me to trade with the mainland, and technically it did, however in a restricted way where the warehouse would have a quest for items commissioned and you would fulfill those quests for money. Nevertheless, I was eager to continue playing the game as I had gone to the park where I was working on a quest to receive my wings. After 42 hours, I made it back to spring of year 2. I had completed the main story on winter 11, so I was able to focus on just myself and trying to complete as many job quests as I could. I learned about job quests sometime after the 10-hour mark, where various NPCs would give you quests to do to advance your job. These quests ultimately gives you headgear and a new outfit. Having a job doesn't necessarily make you better at it, however you can get some items as well as the outfits that are unlocked after you finish the final. The reason why I was so focused on the job quest was because I wanted to unlock all of the outfits at the end. I finished a few job quests, though didn't manage to finish the ones that involved collecting unique critters, fish, and cooked dishes. I got married in the game to Namashal the elf and actually regretted it. I really like going on dates with the romanceable NPCs and learning about them, and getting married locks you out of the dates. You are unable to go on any dates with your spouse, and they usually just hang around your farm and do their own thing. So once I got married, it did feel like romance was locked out of the game forever. Lastly, I was in the process of breeding flowers for different colors so I could unlock more wing variations. 42 hours did go by fast in the game, so I want to talk about some things that I liked and things that I wish the game did differently. Here are some things that I liked about the game. The visuals are pretty impressive. I like the cute doughy faces of all the NPCs and the expansive beautiful sceneries. This game is so fun to look at and there's plenty of whimsy wherever you go. I like the different mechanics in the 3 dungeons. In the first one, you have to find a button to press while you have to find 2 glowing balls to unlock the gate in the second one, and then carry a ball to a pedestal without extinguishing the flame in the third one. The enemies in the second and third dungeon are pretty similar with different attack patterns, but they definitely kept me on my toes. I like the fact that the enemies drop usable resources whenever you defeat them, so I can continue collecting gems, ores, and even lumber that I need when my stamina ran out. I also appreciated that if I lose all my HP and got sent out of the dungeon, there were no consequences or losses. The day doesn't end automatically when you fail, you don't have to pay a fine, and you can just turn around and go right back into the dungeon if you wanted to. I like going on dates in the game where your partner will just take you to an area to hang out and tell you about themselves. I like that the dates build on each other. For example, Namashal the elf, who I ended up marrying, had some character development during his dates where he would turn his nose up at my character in the beginning, but then come to the realization that he needed to better himself for a partner a few dates in. I also love how the dates look visually stunning and they're so pretty. I just want to spend time in them. I like the farming mechanics where you can change your crops through through the magic swap fertilizer, it was fun to see what crops would come up from the base ones. I like the magical skills you learn after helping the sprites out. My favorite is the vortex skill, which gather forageables and crops in an area. I also like the charm skill, which is great for crowd control in the dungeons, especially when you're fighting a lot of enemies. I like being able to level up my skills whenever I'm doing something repeatedly, so I gain more proficiency to decrease how much stamina I use or gain more resources from harvesting. It's so satisfying being able to go back to older dungeons and mining multiple ores and gems at a time which took me so long to save up while my skill levels were lower. I like the pop-up whenever your health, stamina, or mana is low to use an item from your backpack. This allows me to quickly eat something and continue doing whatever I was doing without having to open my backpack and click consume on each one. I like the different farms that you can unlock, so you can choose which farm you want to focus on, or at least have different areas to decorate and plant specific crops or flowers. I use my Fae acre farms to mainly plant flowers, while I planted most of my crops at the beginning farm. I like having the ability to throw everything into storage without limitation, or at least any limitation that I've run across. Additionally, I love machines will pull from the storage when making their products, and each storage is linked no matter which farm you go to. And here are some things I wish the game did differently. I was not a fan of crops withering during the next season, despite being able to plant in that season. For example, at the beginning of summer, all of my cauliflower crops withered. However, I could literally replant them the very same day since they're a base crop and can be planted in all seasons. I feel like this was unnecessary and just reset the clock on what I could harvest. I really wish the user interface was a bit different or adjustable. It's just a bit big for me and it covers a lot of the screen and you can't hide it. I wish there were more quality of life features. This game does have some that I've enjoyed as mentioned. However, there are definitely some other quality of life improvements that could make the experience even better. For example, having the ability to choose how many items I consume from my inventory would make restoring my stamina, health, or mana a little bit easier. I'm not a fan of how clunky moving things in your inventory is. You have to select the item, click move, and then move it to the slot you want. I think that the inventory could also benefit from a sorting option. There's a sorting option in your storage, however, none for the inventory. I also wish that the confirm button was moved from the left side to the right side. I know this is really minor, however, when you're selecting how many items you want to purchase and then having to go back to the left side to click confirm does get a little bit annoying, and I found myself accidentally clicking out of inventories and prompts that way. There are some annoying bugs that the game had during my playthrough. I encountered a bug where there would be a prolonged clicking whenever I teleported from one area to another on the map. Another bug that I encountered was being told that my inventory was full, despite it not being full, and the pop-up would keep popping up on screen every few seconds during the entire day. There would be bugs where the quest description would not populate, and bugs where I would get stuck on having to name an animal but not being able to complete the naming process. So I would have to hard stop the game and reload from the last time I saved, which usually would be at the top of the morning. After 42 hours in game, I can say that I had a great time in Fae Farm, but I don't think it has enough content left for me to continue playing beyond whether I want to keep breeding flowers to unlock all of the wing variations. I think that the game would definitely be fun if I dipped into the multiplayer mode, since there are so many different houses and farms that you end up unlocking, so that everyone can have a little place of their own. I did get this game for less than $23.99 USD on Steam, so for the price that I paid for it, I think that it was well worth my experience. This game might be for you if you're looking for a cozy magical farming sim game with lots of decorations and cosmetics to unlock. I'm pretty sure if you had friends to play with, then this game would also be for you. However, you do have to venture into the dungeons and fight enemies in order to progress the story and unlock more areas to explore, which could be stressful for some. As stated earlier, being defeated in the dungeons is low stakes as you do not lose any items or money and you can just go back in and try again. If you're able to look past some of the bugs that it has, then this game is overall good and cozy vibe. Well, there you have it. If you think this game is for you, I hope you try it. If you've already played Fae Farm before, let me know your thoughts on the game. What's your favorite wing variation? Who did you end up marrying? What tips do you have for newcomers as they embark on their journey? Of course, if you like what I do and want to see me do more of it, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. This will help my reviews get out to more people who might want to see them. I really appreciate you making it to the end and all the support that you've given me. Until next time, I have been Nessa, and this has been a 10110 one.